My next guest is the senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and is a former member of the Federal Election Commission. So he's got some good insight into this whole election nightmare that we are dealing with. Hans von Spakovsky joins me now. Thank you for coming on the show, Hans. We really appreciate it. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
So you were on the Election Commission. That's one of the main reasons when my producer said, let's book this fellow and talk to him about what's going on. You guys have to be, I would think, a bit fuming over at the Heritage Foundation right now, looking at what's happening with our country, where voices are being stifled. Conservatives can't even seek out and ask about information and expect to get it, either on social media or from the mainstream media, because big tech and media is just blocking anything that supporters or the president has to say about election fraud and irregularities.
No, that's right. And we also have folks like a staffer at the Washington Post saying that just speaking about the election fraud issue means that I and others should be exiled from polite society and denied jobs in government, academia, and private industry, which is basically a blacklist, something that, as you know, the left complained about for so long during the McCarthy era.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I saw that post that you're referring to where they said we should all be pretty much kicked out to the streets, never allowed, right, and written down so that you can never run for office and serve in public office if you're simply questioning the validity of this vote. That makes no sense to me. Any American has the right to question the validity of any election to make sure that it's right, just. Otherwise, we're a banana republic. I also saw the one from good old AOC that says that we've got to track down all of the Trump supporters. And I wonder what they plan on doing to Trump supporters after. I mean, the rhetoric that comes from the left these days, Hans, baffles me and also scares me. Your feeling?
Well, it should. Look, that is the kind of tactics and language that fascists used in the 1930s when they started taking over countries in Europe, and that communists also used. And my family, I know that because my mother grew up in Nazi Germany. My father escaped the communists twice. And that is not the way we conduct elections or supposed to be conducting elections or politics in this country. The fact that somebody may be a member of the opposite political party is not a reason to exile them from society and put them on blacklists. And the fact that AOC and others are doing that kind of thing, I think is frankly shocking, and it's dangerous.
Hans, I don't know if you can see in the screen, we were running some video right there of the other night when Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris stood on a stage with fireworks galore and their entire family, Hunter included. The audacity of these two to stand up there and claim a victory when we have multiple legal battles in several states around this country was appalling to me. What, if anything, is the Heritage Foundation? You guys have been around for decades. You got lots of resources. How are you guys helping with the investigation, with the legal fight? How are you backing up conservatives to have a voice as we look into these claims of fraud?
Well, we've been trying to bring to light the vulnerabilities of our system and the fact that election fraud actually occurs for years. And one of the things that we've done that is unique is we actually have an election fraud database that lists proven cases from across the country. You know, every time you hear somebody at one of the mainstream networks claim, oh, there's no voter fraud, we don't need to worry about it, all you need to do is go to our database and you can see it. Now, there are serious cases being filed. As you probably know, in Pennsylvania, they have filed a lawsuit making a number of claims which potentially could affect the outcome of the election, including the fact is that, as you know, the state Supreme Court there extended the deadline for the receipt of absentee ballots for 3 days after the election, even though they basically overrode state law on this. And in court, they're asking for those ballots not to be counted because the court didn't have the power to do that.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point. We have got documented proof leading back to what Nixon's first run of voter fraud in this country. I mean, come on. Anybody that says it, this is another thing that just kills me. To watch all the lamestream media lapdogs every single day since last Tuesday say, there's no voter fraud. This is just a narrative put out by Trump and his supporters. They know damn well, we all do, there has been voter fraud, whether it's 1, 100, or 1,000 votes, or in this case, maybe millions of votes. There has been voter fraud since, and again, this is on record, I would hope, and you guys have that record, since the 50s or 60s. Prior to that, it might have been a little hard to track it down, but we know there's been voter fraud since the 60s. Correct? Do your records go back that far?
Well, yeah. And look, right now we have a big fight about what happened in Philadelphia. Just within the last 2 months, a former Democratic congressman who had become a political consultant was indicted and criminally charged by the U.S. attorney in Philadelphia for bribing an election official there who works in a polling place to stuff the ballot box with fraudulent ballots in multiple elections. The election officials, he's already pleaded guilty to this. So the idea that, for example, fraud doesn't occur in Philadelphia is just laughable.
Yeah, all they would have to do is Google it, and they can find real cases.
Right.
But I guess, Google probably pushes that down on page 11 or 12, so nobody can find it. Oh, Hans, I wish we had a couple hours to talk about this, because we could just start citing all of the factual evidence that has come forward, from postmasters telling people to predate stuff, to the example you just gave, to poll watchers not being allowed in, to votes being changed or transcribed improperly. I mean, the list of voter fraud and voter irregularities is up there in the double digits. It's in every battleground state. It needs to be investigated, and this country should not rest, should not sleep until we know that we have a fair and free legal election and legal vote count. Hans von, and I hope I got it right, Spakovsky.
You got it just right.
That's the last name. Thank you so much from the Heritage Foundation for coming on and letting us know what you guys are doing and keeping up the fight so that we can get to the bottom of this. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.